Here's the Fujifilm 18 to 135 millimeter zoom lens. This goes from an f3.5 at the wide angle, 18 millimeters, to a 5.6 when it's all the way zoomed in. And look at that zoom. Let me remove this lens hood. That is a long zoom range. Some other features with this lens: it has optical image stabilization that you can turn on and off. Here's a toggle that goes from the automatic aperture to manual aperture. This ring right here is the manual aperture dial that has clicks that cannot be declicked. The aperture ring is electronically controlled, so the aperture shows up on the camera, not on the body. But the lens, you can see 18 to 135, which on a crop sensor, the 35 millimeter full frame equivalent would be a 27 millimeter to a 206 millimeter range. It has a really thick zoom that's a nice rubber material, but over time this could probably wear down. And then it has a very smooth focus ring, but there's no hard stops on the focus ring. It's to affinity and it's electronic. It has a 67 millimeter thread mount. And I would say, as far as the Fujifilm lenses go, this is one of the best all-purpose zoom lenses that you could own if you don't shoot anything in particular. If you shoot just a lot of random things, if you travel a lot. And I don't even think they have updated this lens yet either, so there's no other version of it. This is the only version you can get. It sells for about $800–900. The price doesn't really fluctuate from there. I haven't seen it go down that far unless you buy it used. And it's pretty big. Not just when it's fully zoomed, but in general I think it's pretty large. One of the larger lenses in the Fujifilm lineup that isn't a full-on telephoto. For example, here is the 56 millimeter prime lens, my go-to lens, my favorite lens that Fujifilm makes. Another comparison would be the Fujifilm 10 to 24 millimeter wide angle. Let me get rid of this lens hood. Now, if you compare this wide angle lens, usually wide angle lenses are pretty big, but the wide angle zoom lenses, but if you can compare it to the 18 to 35, it's a lot smaller. So on the X-T2, it looks pretty large. So I went outside and I did some test video of this lens. 18 millimeters. Now I'm going to 135. 135. Not a pretty zoom. Not very easy to zoom in for video. And it looks like as I'm zooming, the focus is jumping. I'm in continuous focus mode. Oh yeah. The instant I start zooming, focus is unusable. This image stabilization is pretty good though. I'm handheld right now, and I'm at 135. It's very stable. Now I'm at an f11, which I think is a better f-stop outdoors. I'm shooting f-log, so it's automatically at a base ISO of 800, which is not good when it's really bright. So I'm at 18 millimeters. I'm going to go zoom in and out, and now I'm going to check to see if it's stepping down at f11. I can't tell if there's aperture stepping, but I can tell the focus is pretty bad. I'm gonna switch to the S mode. Yep, same problem. Now let's go to manual mode. Let's see what happens. I'm in manual mode right now. And what I'll do is I'll focus all the way. Let me set my focus here. Okay, I'm focused on those dark flowers. At 135, I'm going to zoom out and test to see if this is a parfocal lens. Parfocal meaning the lens holds its focus all the way through the zoom range, which I can't tell if, is this in focus? Let me zoom back in. I think the focus has shifted a little bit, although a lot of things look in focus. It's at f11. Now let's test the lens stabilization. Right now it's on 18 millimeters, and I'm going to go to 135. That focus is going to adjust. Come on, focus. Is it going to hit it? Okay. Went up to, there we go, finally. That focus is not that great. But image stabilization seems pretty good. I'm handheld. And it's very steady at 135, all the way zoomed in. Okay, I'll zoom back out. Now I'm going to shut off the image stabilization. Image stabilization is off. I don't notice anything at the 18 millimeters, but let's go to 135. Focus is taking forever. Okay, focus is good now. And this is with image stabilization off. I'm trying to hold this as steady as possible. Yeah, it's pretty steady. Maybe I just have really steady hands. Now let's enable that image stabilization. Okay, now the lens stabilization is on. Oh yeah, I notice a difference. It's very smooth now. So this is on. And I'm not going to move anything with my hand position except turning off the lens stabilization. Now lens stabilization is off. And I notice it's a little tougher to maintain stabilization, but it's still not that bad. As far as stills go, I think this lens is pretty sharp at all focal lengths, and if you're shooting outdoors, you shouldn't have a problem with low light. If you keep it at a 5.6, it should be fine. Inside or on low light situations, it doesn't do as well. And it relies heavily on how much noise reduction you're going to have in your X-T2 or any other Fujifilm camera. So it's not a good indoor low light lens, but outdoors for photos, it's pretty good and pretty sharp. The focus is spot on, and the image stabilization is great. Now in video mode, like you saw in my tests, the image stabilization is great, even when zoomed all the way in. But the problem was the focus. So in video mode, you can't be filming video and then zooming in and expect the focus not to shift. There was a little bit of that stepping of the aperture also when you zoom in. So if you want clean zoom, that you cannot get that from this lens. Other than that, if you're just looking for this all-purpose lens, I think it's a good buy if you are in the market for one.